They walked into the dealership with heads held high, hearts full of pride, and a dream they'd waited years to fulfill. Marcus and Denise Harris were a hardworking black couple who had spent decades building their small business from the ground up. After years of sacrifice, saving, and struggle, they were finally ready to treat themselves to something special, a Rolls-Royce. But instead of being welcomed, they were met with sneers, cold stares, and humiliation. A smug salesman dismissed them, laughed at their presence, and escorted them out like criminals, not customers. What he didn't know was that their son Jordan Harris wasn't just anyone. He was a billionaire tech founder with a sharp memory and a fierce love for his parents. And when he found out how they'd been treated, he didn't just show up to make things right. He returned the next day with two brand new Rolls-Royces and a message that turned heads across the nation. This is a story about love, justice, and the unforgettable moment when appearances were shattered and respect was reclaimed. Marcus and Denise Harris weren't the kind of couple that turned heads when they walked into a room. They didn't wear flashy clothes or expensive jewelry, no designer heels or wristwatches that screamed status. But what they carried was far more valuable: quiet dignity, years of hard work, and the kind of love that only deepens with time. That morning, as they parked their aging but well-maintained SUV outside the most exclusive luxury car dealership in the city, their hearts fluttered with anticipation. This wasn't just any errand, it was a dream finally within reach. After 30 years of building their catering business from scratch, cooking out of their tiny kitchen, delivering meals by hand, working weddings and corporate events, they had paid off their debts, saved every extra dollar, and decided that now was their time. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," Denise said, clutching Marcus's hand. Her smile was wide, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "A Rolls-Royce, Marcus. I've dreamed of riding in one since I was a little girl." Marcus chuckled, squeezing her hand gently. "Well, baby, dreams don't expire. We made it here together." The dealership was like stepping into another world. The floor gleamed like glass beneath their feet. Chandeliers sparkled from the ceiling, and the air smelled like leather and polished wood. In every direction, sleek, gleaming vehicles rested like works of art: Bentleys, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and in a sunlit corner, the prize, two Rolls-Royce Ghosts, their silver grills shining like armor. A server floated by with a tray of champagne flutes. Behind a curved reception desk, a woman in a navy blue blazer glanced at them, her smile thin and mechanical. She didn't speak, she just stared for a beat too long before returning to her screen. Marcus and Denise tried not to notice. They had grown used to the stares, the assumptions, but today they wanted to believe it would be different. Today was supposed to be special. They walked slowly toward the Rolls-Royces, admiring every detail. Denise reached out, gently tracing a finger along the side mirror of one. Her touch was reverent, almost like she didn't believe it was real. But then, like a sudden chill in a warm room, the moment shifted. A tall, pale-skinned salesman approached them. His suit was expensive, but his smirk was cheap. His slicked back hair looked like it had been lacquered into place, and his eyes gave away what his lips were about to confirm. He didn't see customers. He saw intruders. "We don't sell used cars here," he said without greeting or smile. Marcus blinked. "We know," he said calmly, though his jaw tightened. "We're looking for a new Rolls-Royce Ghost, preferably in black or midnight blue." The salesman raised his eyebrows and let out a half-laugh, half-snort. "You're serious?" Denise's smile faded. "The Ghost starts at $350,000. The man continued, his voice laced with condescension. "You might want to try the Honda dealership down the road, or maybe, what's that other one, Kia." Marcus felt his fists clench at his sides. His instincts told him to walk away, but his pride fought to stay. "We didn't ask for a lecture," he said slowly, "just a brochure and maybe a test drive." The salesman scoffed. "I'm going to have to ask you not to touch the cars. They are for serious buyers." Denise took a step back, her shoulders shrinking in on themselves. The warmth and joy that had carried them into the dealership evaporated like mist under a harsh sun. Another salesman across the room chuckled loudly, and the one in front of them turned to join in. That was enough. Marcus reached for Denise's hand. "Come on, we don't need this." They walked toward the exit, each step heavier than the last. The laughter behind them echoed like nails on glass, sharp and humiliating. Denise kept her eyes on the floor, trying to hold back tears. She had imagined this day 1,000 times, but not like this. Outside, the sky had turned gray. Denise leaned against the car door and whispered, "Maybe we didn't belong in there after all." Marcus looked at her, his heart aching not just from the insult, but from seeing her spirit dimmed. "No," he said. They just didn't know who they were talking to. From across the street, a black SUV with tinted windows remained parked, engine idling. Behind the glass, a pair of sharp eyes had seen everything. The salesman's sneer, the cold dismissal, the broken moment. And the person in that SUV wasn't just anyone. He was someone with power, someone with a plan, and he wasn't going to let this insult go unanswered. Snowflakes drifted gently outside the floor, the ceiling windows of a luxury lodge nestled deep in the Aspen Mountains. Inside, a roaring fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the stone walls and warm wood beams. Jordan Harris sat on a sleek leather couch, laptop open on one side, an untouched cup of gourmet coffee on the other. At just 29, he was already a name the tech world whispered with both awe and envy. Founder of one of the most addictive social media platforms in the world, Pulse, he had turned a room idea into a global empire used by over 200 million people daily. Forbes had listed him as the youngest black tech billionaire in California. Investors lined up to get a seat at his table. But right now, he wasn't thinking about boardrooms, IPOs, or his next feature launch. His mind was elsewhere, on home. On the two people who had given him everything. A soft ding snapped him out of thought. He picked up his phone and saw a message from his mother, Denise. "We went to the dealership today. It didn't go well. Don't worry, we'll find somewhere else." There was no anger in her words. No long explanation, just her usual grace, trying to stay strong for everyone else. But Jordan knew what didn't go well really meant. His stomach sank. He tapped the message, reading it again, slower this time. He could almost hear her voice, tired, trying to sound cheerful. He stared into the fire as memories began to flood in. He remembered the years his parents stayed up all night baking, packaging, and labeling food orders for the next day's deliveries. He remembered how they put their business on hold when he got accepted into Stanford, scraping together tuition they could barely afford. And most of all, he remembered the moment they sold their first home, their dream home, just to keep him afloat when his first version of the app crashed and burned. Not once did they question if he was worth the sacrifice, and now someone had made his mother feel like she didn't belong. Someone had laughed at his father. Jordan's jaw tightened. His fingers curled into a fist on the couch cushion. It wasn't just the insult that angered him. It was the way his mother still tried to protect him from the pain. He tapped his phone and called her. She picked up with a soft, "Hi, baby." "Hey, Mama," he said, keeping his tone even. "What happened at the dealership?" There was a pause. "It's nothing to worry about, sweetheart. The salesman he didn't think we were serious buyers. We'll go somewhere else." Jordan's throat tightened. Did he say something rude? A quiet sigh. "He told us to try the Honda dealership down the road, but we're okay, really." Jordan didn't respond immediately. He could feel something rising in him, anger, sadness, resolve, a quiet, focused fire. He hung up, stood up from the couch, and walked over to the window, staring at the peaceful snowfall. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed his phone again and dialed his assistant. "Cancel everything," he said as soon as she answered. "Everything?" she replied, confused. "You have that investor dinner tonight and you're meeting with—" "I said cancel it all. I'm flying home tonight." There was a pause. "Is everything okay?" Jordan turned back toward the fire. His voice was calm but unshakably firm. "My parents were just disrespected in the worst way. I need to remind some people who they are." He ended the call and pulled out his duffel bag, tossing in a change of clothes, his laptop, and a velvet box he had picked up a few weeks earlier, an early anniversary gift he hadn't yet given his Parents, he looked at it for a moment before zipping the bag shut. Outside, the wind howled softly across the snowy peaks, but inside Jordan's mind, a storm had already begun. This wasn't about ego, it wasn't about money, it was about honor. They had built him up from nothing, and now, someone was going to understand just how wrong it was to look down on the people who raised a king. Jordan wasn't just flying back to visit. He was flying back to make a statement the whole city wouldn't forget. The morning sun hadn't yet burned through the soft haze hovering over the city when something unusual stirred in the marble-fronted luxury car dealership. The staff were just settling into their routines, polishing hoods to mirror perfection, aligning brochures on glass counters, and sipping imported espresso from tiny cups when they heard it. The unmistakable purr of not one, but two ultra-rare, jet-black Rolls-Royces turning into the lot. First came a phantom, sleek, regal, and commanding. Then a ghost, equally mesmerizing with its silver hood ornament glinting like a dagger in the light. They glided in silence across the lot, drawing every eye. Then a third vehicle arrived, a matte black SUV with tinted windows that looked more like a presidential motorcade than a customer's ride. It slid to a perfect stop, and for a moment all was still. When the rear door opened, out stepped Jordan Harris. 6 feet of calm power in a tailored black Tom Ford suit, polished loafers, and designer sunglasses. His presence was magnetic, commanding attention without effort. Whispers rippled through the staff like electricity through a wire. Is that Jordan Harris? Dude's on the cover of Forbes this month. The dealership manager stepped out from his office, eyes widening. But before anyone else could react, the same slick-haired salesman from the day before came rushing out, grinning like a Cheshire cat. His name was Chase, and he didn't recognize the man. At least, not right away. All he saw was a rich customer. A chance for commission. Welcome, sir, he said, extending a hand eagerly. We'd be happy to give you a private tour of our showroom. Champagne, espresso. Jordan didn't take the handshake. He didn't smile. He simply lowered his sunglasses, locked eyes with the man, and said 4 words that hit like a punch. You already did, yesterday. Chase blinked, confused. Jordan continued, voice steady and sharp. When you laughed at my parents, when you told them to go to a Honda dealership, ring any bells, the blood drained from Chase's face. His jaw fell open, words scrambling but failing to form. A few feet away, other employees froze mid-step. A receptionist paused mid-call, the air thickened with silence. Jordan stepped past him, walking straight into the center of the showroom like he owned it, which in a few hours, if necessary, he just might. I'll take both Rolls-Royces, he announced, loud enough for every employee and customer in the room to hear. The Ghost is for my mom, the Phantom is for my dad. No one dared move. One of the junior salespeople, a young woman with braids and wide eyes, quickly reached for a tablet to begin the purchase. Jordan turned back to Chase, whose face was now damp with sweat. I want both cars detailed, registered, and delivered to my parents' home by noon. No excuses, and I want a public apology from you personally, on your website under your name, by the end of the day. If I don't see it, I'll buy this dealership before midnight, change the name and clean house, starting with you. Someone audibly gasped. The receptionist dropped her pen, a manager whispered into a headset. Chase's lips quivered, but still no sound came out. He looked like a man who'd just realized he was standing on a trapdoor. Jordan adjusted his sunglasses, took one last look around the showroom, and said with quiet authority, Don't ever judge a book by its cover, especially when that book raised the man who could buy your whole building for lunch money. He turned on his heel, walking back toward the SUV. As he reached the door, a voice finally broke the silence. Mr. Harris, wait. It was the dealership manager, a short, nervous man in an ill-fitting suit. Please, let's talk this over. Privately, we can fix this. Jordan paused, turning slightly. I'm not here to negotiate, he said. I'm here to correct an insult. The only thing you need to fix is your culture, and you have about 12 hours to do it. With that, he climbed into the back seat, the door closing with a soft click. The SUV rolled away as silently as it came. Back in the showroom, chaos brewed. Chase collapsed into a leather chair, holding his head in his hands. Phones rang, managers huddled, and in the middle of it all, two new Rolls-Royces sat gleaming under the showroom lights, already sold, already spoken for. And by noon, they'd be parked in front of a modest home owned by two people who had been told they didn't belong. But now they belonged everywhere by mid-afternoon. The city buzzed with a story no one could ignore. It started as a simple video less than a minute long, but its impact rippled through social media like wildfire. Jordan Harris's assistant, always sharp and quick thinking, had quietly recorded the confrontation from the privacy of the SUV. The moment Jordan called out the arrogant salesman, his words clear and unyielding, was captured perfectly. As soon as Jordan left the dealership, the assistant uploaded the clip to his official Pulse account with one powerful caption: "When you judge someone by how they look, you might miss the royalty standing right in front of you." Within minutes, the video exploded, millions of views. Thousands of comments flooded in, many sharing personal stories of discrimination, others praising Jordan's calm yet firm response. Hashtags began trending: #Rolls-Royce Revenge, #Respect Our Parents, #Harris Legacy, and each tag carried a message louder than the last. News outlets picked up the story, running headlines like, "Billionaire son buys 2 Rolls-Royces for parents after dealership humiliation, luxury dealer forced to apologize after racist incident." Social media explodes over royalty confrontation at high-end car showroom. Meanwhile, Denise and Marcus Harris had no idea their son had taken matters into his own hands. That afternoon, the couple was at home, still processing the events from the previous day. Denise sat by the window, gazing quietly at their modest front yard. Marcus paced, rubbing his temples, wondering if it was all worth it. Suddenly, a distant rumble caught their attention. Looking out the window, Denise saw not one, but 2 massive delivery trucks pulling up in front of their house. Their neighbors, intrigued by the sudden arrival, began stepping out of their homes, gathering on the sidewalk. Phones were raised, ready to capture whatever was happening. The trucks stopped, their engines humming gently. From the back of each, shiny black covers were pulled away, revealing the unmistakable shapes of 2 Rolls-Royces, gleaming like jewels in the afternoon sun. The crowd gasped in unison. Denise's hands flew to her mouth, eyes wide with shock. Marcus stopped mid-step and stared, speechless. For a moment, it was as if time stood still. Then, a courier from the delivery company approached the front door and handed Denise a simple, handwritten envelope. With trembling fingers, she opened it and pulled out a note penned in elegant script. "Mom and Dad, you've always believed in me. Now it's my turn to believe in you. Love, Jordan." Tears spilled down Denise's cheeks as she read the words aloud, her voice cracking with emotion. Marcus blinked, then suddenly laughed, a deep, heartfelt laugh that hadn't come so easily in a long time. Their neighbors, watching with wide smiles and some wiping tears, began applauding softly. Phones recorded the moment, cameras flashing as Marcus and Denise stood in front of their new Rolls-Royces, overwhelmed but radiant. News vans arrived, reporters crowding around to ask questions, but Marcus only shook his head with a proud smile. "It's not about the cars," he said simply. "It's about dignity, it's about respect." That night, the video continued to spread. Jordan's page gained millions of new followers. Messages poured in from strangers around the world, people sharing their own stories of struggle, of overcoming, of fighting to be seen. Many expressed admiration not just for Jordan's wealth, but for his character and how he honored his roots. The dealership's website carried a public apology from Chase, the salesman, whose face appeared humbled and remorseful. He promised training and changes within the company, trying to repair the damage. But for Jordan, Marcus, and Denise, the moment was about much more than public apologies or social media fame. It was about justice. It was about proving that no one should be judged by the color of their skin or the clothes they wear. It was about family, love, and the unbreakable bond between parents and child. As Denise hugged Marcus tightly in front of the 2 Rolls-Royces, she whispered, "We didn't just buy cars today. We bought back our pride." And for the first time in a long time, the Harris family felt truly whole. The backlash from the dealership was swift and undeniable. Within hours of the video going viral, the company's leadership released an official statement, expressing deep regret over the incident. The words were carefully crafted, but the message was clear. "We apologize unreservedly to Mr. and Mrs. Harris for the treatment they received at our dealership. Such behavior does not reflect our values or commitment to customer service. We have terminated the employment of the individual responsible and will implement mandatory sensitivity training for all staff." The name of the slick-haired salesman, Chase, was quickly scrubbed from the dealership's website and social media pages. His emails were disabled, his desk cleared. The message was loud and clear: disrespect would no longer be tolerated here. But Jordan Harris didn't stop there. The very next week, he announced he had purchased a 20% stake in the dealership, not as a boast of wealth, but as a strategic move to ensure that no one else would ever endure the humiliation his parents faced. With his investment came a new vision, one where inclusivity, respect, and empathy were not just buzzwords but the foundation of the business. "I'm not here to change the luxury car market," Jordan told reporters at the press conference. "I'm here to change the culture around it. No customer, no matter their background, should ever feel unwelcome or less than." His bold move turned the dealership into a case study, studied in business schools across the country under the title, "Humility vs. Appearance, Who Deserves Service?" Professors used it to spark conversations about prejudice, customer relations, and the power of leadership that cares. Meanwhile, life at the Harris household blossomed in the glow of renewed respect. 1 week later, Marcus and Denise found themselves sitting comfortably in a bright television studio, ready for a local news interview. Denise had chosen a shimmering navy blue dress, her hair perfectly styled, her smile radiant. Marcus wore a tailored suit with a subtle, proud smile that softened the lines of years past. The interviewer, a warm woman with a microphone and an empathetic gaze, leaned forward. "Mrs. Harris, can you tell us what it felt like to be treated the way you were at that dealership, and then to see your son come back with such a powerful statement?" Denise's eyes glistened with tears as she spoke, her voice steady but heartfelt. "It was painful at first, to be judged not by who we are, but by how we looked or where we came from. That's a wound no one expects. But what this experience taught me is that kindness and dignity never go out of style, and love always finds a way to bring justice." The interviewer nodded, then turned to Marcus. "What was it like seeing your son return with 2 Rolls-Royces?" Marcus smiled, looked directly into the camera, and said something that echoed far beyond the studio walls. He didn't return with 2 cars. He returned with respect. That's worth more than any price tag. His words were met with applause from the small studio audience and thousands watching live across social media streams. In the days that followed, the Harris family became more than just a news story. They became a symbol that challenged assumptions and inspired conversations in boardrooms, classrooms, and dinner tables nationwide. Jordan's leadership at the dealership transformed it into a beacon of change. The once exclusive showroom began hosting community events, scholarship fundraisers, and mentorship programs, opening its doors to anyone who wanted a chance, regardless of background. Marcus and Denise started a foundation using part of their son's gift, dedicated to helping minority entrepreneurs break barriers in the luxury market and beyond. And through it all, the family stayed grounded, never forgetting where they came from and what truly mattered. From the sting of humiliation to the triumph of honor, the Harris family's story became a lesson the world would never forget. Because in the end, it wasn't about cars or money or status. It was about respect and the unstoppable power of love to demand it. The backlash from the dealership was swift and undeniable. Within hours of the video going viral, the company's leadership released an official statement, expressing deep regret over the incident. The words were carefully crafted, but the message was clear. We apologize unreservedly to Mr. and Mrs. Harris for the treatment they received at our dealership. Such behavior does not reflect our values or commitment to customer service. We have terminated the employment of the individual responsible and will implement mandatory sensitivity training for all staff. The name of the slick-haired salesman, Chase, was quickly scrubbed from the dealership's website and social media pages. His emails were disabled, his desk cleared. The message was loud and clear. Disrespect would no longer be tolerated here. But Jordan Harris didn't stop there. The very next week, he announced he had purchased a 20% stake in the dealership. Not as a boast of wealth, but as a strategic move to ensure that no one else would ever endure the humiliation his parents faced. With his investment came a new vision, one where inclusivity, respect, and empathy were not just buzzwords, but the foundation of the business. "I'm not here to change the luxury car market," Jordan told reporters at the press conference. "I'm here to change the culture around it. No customer, no matter their background, should ever feel unwelcome or less than." His bold move turned the dealership into a case study studied in business schools across the country under the title, "Humility vs. Appearance Who Deserves Service." Professors used it to spark conversations about prejudice, customer relations, and the power of leadership that cares. Meanwhile, life at the Harris household blossomed in the glow of renewed respect. 1 week later, Marcus and Denise found themselves sitting comfortably in a bright television studio, ready for a local news interview. Denise had chosen a shimmering navy blue dress, her hair perfectly styled, her smile radiant. Marcus wore a tailored suit with a subtle, proud smile that softened the lines of years past. The interviewer, a warm woman with a microphone and an empathetic gaze, leaned forward. "Mrs. Harris, can you tell us what it felt like to be treated the way you were at that dealership, and then to see your son come back with such a powerful statement?" Denise's eyes glistened with tears as she spoke, her voice steady but heartfelt. "It was painful at first, to be judged not by who we are but by how we looked or where we came from. That's a wound no one expects. But what this experience taught me is that kindness and dignity never go out of style, and love always finds a way to bring justice." The interviewer nodded, then turned to Marcus. "What was it like seeing your son return with 2 Rolls-Royces?" Marcus smiled, looked directly into the camera, and said something that echoed far beyond the studio walls. He didn't return with 2 cars. He returned with respect. That's worth more than any price tag. His words were met with applause from the small studio audience and thousands watching live across social media streams. In the days that followed, the Harris family became more than just a news story. They became a symbol that challenged assumptions and inspired conversations in boardrooms, classrooms, and dinner tables nationwide. Jordan's leadership at the dealership transformed it into a beacon of change. The once exclusive showroom began hosting community events, scholarship fundraisers, and mentorship programs, opening its doors to anyone who wanted a chance, regardless of background. Marcus and Denise started a foundation using part of their son's gift, dedicated to helping minority entrepreneurs break barriers in the luxury market and beyond. And, through it all, the family stayed grounded, never forgetting where they came from and what truly mattered. From the sting of humiliation to the triumph of honor, the Harris family's story became a lesson the world would never forget. Because in the end, it wasn't about cars or money or status. It was about respect and the unstoppable power of love to demand it. This wasn't just about a car dealership or even 2 luxury cars. It was about something far deeper: respect, pride, and justice. Marcus and Denise walked into that dealership with hope and were met with judgment. But thanks to their son's powerful response, they walked away with not only 2 Rolls-Royces, but their dignity fully restored. Jordan didn't just buy cars. He bought a moment that reminded everyone watching that success isn't measured by what you wear or how you look, but by who you are, how you treat others, and never forgetting where you came from. Thanks for watching this powerful story. If this touched your heart or opened your eyes, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Hidden Realities for more real, emotional, and inspiring stories just like this one. And let us know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Jordan's shoes? Until next time, keep believing in yourself, and never underestimate the power of family, respect, and rising above hate.